He seized Liam's sweatshirt, pulling him down with a force that left no room for misunderstanding, and returned the kiss with a devouring intensity. Liam gasped, his eyes flying open in a panic as he glanced toward the living room. He couldn't believe Ethan would do this, not with their parents just feet away. A few moments later, their lips parted. A swollen, tender pout had formed on Liam's mouth where Ethan had bitten him. He swiped the back of his hand across his lips, his heart still hammering against his ribs. He managed a quiet, shaken curse, calling Ethan a hooligan. The last of the Christmas lights on the block had blinked out, leaving the street bathed in the cold, silver light of the moon and the stark silhouettes of the barren maple trees. The air was frigid. The forecast had warned of temperatures dropping below freezing, but huddled inside Ethan's oversized coat, Liam felt no desire to go back inside. They murmured to each other about nothing in particular until the clock neared midnight, a family tradition to see the new year in together. As the final chime of the old year rang out, Mr. Hayes and Susan each handed them an envelope. Mr. Hayes gave his to Ethan, and Susan gave hers to Liam. The meaning behind the gesture was unspoken but clear. Liam grinned, thanking Susan, while Ethan expressed his gratitude to Mr. Hayes. The older couple looked uncharacteristically bashful, waving their hands dismissively. Mr. Hayes cleared his throat, remarking that it was just what families do, celebrating together with warmth and joy. After a bowl of Susan's rich chocolate pudding, everyone retreated to their rooms. Liam, exhausted from the day's festivities, had no energy left to tease Ethan, simply bidding him good night at the door. The next morning, however, he was jolted awake by the sounds of cheerful holiday greetings and the distant roar of a snowblower from down the street. A glance at his phone showed it was only 7:30. Liam groaned into his pillow before dragging himself out of the warm cocoon of his comforter. He had to go to his grandfather's for Christmas breakfast and couldn't be too late. He ran into Ethan in the bathroom. On the first morning of the new year, they were crammed into the small space, their toothbrushes and cups looking like a matching set. A faint shadow of stubble dusted Ethan's jawline, and he was carefully trimming it in front of the mirror. Ethan's sweet words from the night before still echoed in Liam's mind, a lingering warmth that made him want to reciprocate the affection. He snatched the electric razor from Ethan's hand, declaring that he would do it for him. Ethan raised a single skeptical eyebrow. He glanced at Liam's own smooth chin, feeling a profound lack of trust in his boyfriend's shaving abilities. He preferred a manual razor, always doing it himself, and he doubted Liam's hand was steady enough for the task. But he thought better of saying anything. A man had to make certain sacrifices to keep his partner happy. He leaned against the counter, turning his face toward Liam and inviting him to proceed. 20 minutes later, when they came downstairs, a small, half-centimeter nick adorned Ethan's chin. It was too small for a bandage, but the reddish mark was still noticeable against his skin. Susan asked what happened, if he'd scraped it on something. Ethan, busy buttoning his overcoat, replied without looking up that he'd just nicked himself while shaving. Liam stood beside him, radiating guilt. Susan didn't think much of it, simply telling him to be more careful next time. The family of four, after a quick breakfast of sweet rolls, left the house together. Their first stop was Liam's grandfather's, followed by a visit to Ethan's grandmother's place. But after leaving Ethan's grandmother's, Liam had to part ways with them. He was headed to the airport to pick someone up. His mother, Mrs. Davis. She only came back to the States every 2 or 3 years, and this time she was bringing along her second child, Liam's 6-year-old half-sister Zoe. By his calculation, her flight was due to land in about an hour. As the dutiful son, It was his responsibility to be there. Mr. Hayes was on decent terms with his ex-wife. Apart from a brief period of smashing vases when they first separated, they had always been civil. He asked Liam if he was tired, noting the drive to the airport was over an hour, and offered to go with him and drop them all off at his mother-in-law's. Susan agreed, suggesting it was getting dark and he shouldn't drive alone. She proposed that his father should take him, or at least that Ethan should go along for company. Liam was about to refuse. He was a grown man with a driver's license for 2 years. He was perfectly capable. But Susan's last suggestion made him pause. He swallowed his protest, agreeing that it would be good to have his brother come with him. That was precisely what Ethan had been waiting for, and he accepted with pleasure. On the way to the airport, Liam put on some music from his band, a loud, energetic track he hummed along to. He was in a good mood, remarking that he hadn't seen Mrs. Davis in over 2 years. The last time they'd video chatted, he teased her about gaining weight, which she vehemently denied. He mentioned that Zoe changed so much each year. It felt like just yesterday he was holding her as a baby. He hadn't spent much real time with his half-sister, but the bond of blood was strong, and she was an adorable little girl. He recalled her napping in his arms as a toddler, and his heart melted at the memory. Ethan had met the little girl as well and agreed that she was cute. He commented that the older she got, the more she resembled Liam. Liam scoffed, finding it hard to believe. His sister had a head of bright blonde curls and light brown eyes, looking like a little doll. As a pure-blooded American, he couldn't see the resemblance at first glance. But Ethan insisted, pointing out that her nose and lips were just like his, especially the slight upward curve of her lips. Liam was skeptical but intrigued by Ethan's detailed observation, wondering how he, the actual brother, had never noticed. They bantered the whole way, and the time flew by. Before they knew it, they were pulling into the airport parking garage. The international arrivals terminal wasn't crowded. Liam scanned the crowd at the exit, and soon spotted a woman in a beige trench coat, effortlessly holding a child in one arm and pulling a suitcase with the other, striding toward them with an air of command. Her heels weren't high, but she walked as if they were, with an imperious gait that dared anyone to get in her way. Liam knew, however, that this was mostly because she was nearsighted. He grinned and opened his arms, exuberantly welcoming his beautiful mom and adorable sister home. Mrs. Davis peered at him from under her glasses. She expressed surprise, asking who he was, claiming her son was a slender, cute boy under 5'9". Liam's smile froze. Of course, she would immediately bring up his former height. He played along, retorting that he had eaten her son and she could take him or leave him. The cute, shorter version of him was gone, replaced by a man well over 6 feet tall. Mrs. Davis let out another scoff at the term man. But the little girl in her arms was more cooperative, reaching out for her brother and saying his name in her charming, accented English. Liam's heart completely dissolved. His little princess could call him whatever she wanted. Ethan had stayed back, giving them their moment. He stepped forward now to help with the luggage, offering Mrs. Davis a smile and a greeting. No matter how composed a person was, meeting a potential mother-in-law was nerve-wracking, even if she was unaware of the situation. Even the unflappable Ethan was secretly wondering if his clothes were appropriate, if he looked friendly enough, if Mrs. Davis even remembered him. Fortunately, she recognized him instantly. She looked him over, expressing her surprise at how tall he'd grown, and nodded in satisfaction, commenting that he was getting more handsome with age and hadn't gone through an awkward phase. The 4 of them got into the car with Mrs. Davis and her daughter in the back, both looking out the window with identical expressions of curiosity. Mrs. Davis remarked on how much the city changed every time she came back, pointing out a new skyscraper and admitting she'd probably get lost if she were driving. Liam turned the music down, explaining that it had been 3 years since her last visit. A new subway line had been built last year near his old elementary school, and the small park they used to visit had been torn down. Mrs. Davis sounded a little sad to hear that. It was where she used to take a young Liam for walks. She asked what had been built in its place. Liam told her a new, massive amusement park had taken its place. He caught Zoe's eye in the rearview mirror and smiled, promising that he and Ethan would take her there in a few days for a full day of fun. Zoe, who was munching on a small cake, perked up at the suggestion, giving her brother an enthusiastic okay with her cheeks puffed out. Liam was once again overwhelmed with affection for her. After driving for over an hour, Ethan dropped them off at Liam's grandmother's house. It was an old, detached house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Though old, it had been renovated a few years ago. The yard was full of flowers and plants year-round, looking vibrant and full of life. Liam's uncle lived nearby, so his grandmother was never lonely. But seeing her daughter and grandchildren, she leaned out of an upstairs window, her face alight with joy, calling out their names in her perfect, ex-English teacher's accent. Liam lifted his sister out of the car and waved back, wishing his grandmother a happy holiday. Ethan took the luggage out of the trunk and echoed Liam's greeting. He told Liam he was going to head back, and to call him if they needed the car. Liam asked why he wasn't staying since it was already so late. Ethan just smiled, explaining that they had just arrived and would want to catch up and visit with relatives. He would come back in a couple of days. Liam didn't press the issue. He understood Ethan was giving them their private space. Besides, Ethan wasn't that close with his mom or grandmother, and his presence might make things awkward. He just told Ethan to drive safely. Mrs. Davis was in the middle of a warm hug with her own mother, who was pinching her cheeks and assessing whether she'd gained or lost weight. She was surprised to see Ethan leaving but overheard their conversation and understood his consideration. She smiled, telling him that she would treat them to dinner in a few days. Ethan smiled back and agreed. After Ethan's car disappeared down the street, Liam followed his mother and grandmother inside. The yard was just as he remembered, with a small, picturesque bridge over a little stream and lush greenery meticulously cared for by his grandmother. A pot of chicken soup was simmering on the stove, and his grandmother served them all a late-night snack of chicken noodle soup. Back home, Mrs. Davis let loose completely, dressed in fuzzy pajamas with a cat ear headband, sitting cross-legged at the table and eating without a care in the world. She declared that this was real food, complaining about how terrible the food was abroad. Her mother chided her, saying she never seemed to miss a meal. Mrs. Davis, stuffing more noodles into her mouth, mumbled that it was just her strong will to survive. Liam chuckled beside her. His grandmother shook her head, helpless against her daughter's antics, and asked why she didn't just cook for herself. Mrs. Davis retorted by asking if she looked like someone who knew how. A moment later, she turned to Liam, suddenly serious. She advised him that even though she couldn't cook, he should learn. She called it a survival skill that would not only benefit him but also give him a major advantage in the future dating market. Liam just snorted dismissively. He proudly told his mother he had no intention of learning, because his future partner would definitely know how to cook. Ethan's cooking was amazing. Mrs. Davis gave him a look of disdain, wondering where her son got such confidence. She told him to keep dreaming, but she quickly moved on, recounting stories from her work assignments abroad. peppering the conversation with questions about Liam's life, his studies, his band, if they had any new songs. Liam answered each one, but couldn't resist bantering with his mother. If Zoe hadn't gotten sleepy, they might have talked all night. After a night's sleep, Liam spent the next day visiting relatives with his mother, starting with his uncle's house. His mother may have lived overseas, but she hadn't forgotten her American roots, quickly setting up a poker table with the family. Liam joined his younger cousins for a game of Monopoly. His two 30-year-old cousins had wisely made themselves scarce, wanting to avoid the inevitable questions about their personal lives. The siblings and cousins all got along well. Liam even gave his younger cousins some cash as a late Christmas gift. They accepted it without ceremony and immediately started pestering him about his band. They had found out last year that he was in a college band that played gigs, which they thought was incredibly cool. The cousins rolled their eyes in unison. His female cousin sighed dramatically, telling him he was just as annoying as her dad now. Liam found this hilarious, remarking that that's what happens to adults. They age rapidly after high school graduation. His cousin, who was only 15, looked horrified at the thought. Liam spent the afternoon playing with his cousins. It wasn't until evening that he had a chance to video chat with Ethan. It had only been a day, but he was already used to talking with him daily. He was squatting in the yard, recounting everything from his cousin's bad test score to his other cousin's secret manicure, and showing off the money he'd received. He boasted that, as a college student, he'd received enough for them to go out for a few nice meals. In their family, anyone unmarried still got holiday money. Ethan smiled, listening to Liam while working on a paper in his room. Liam caught a glimpse of the screen, filled with academic jargon he couldn't understand. He was shocked, asking if Ethan ever took a break, even during the holidays. Ethan replied that he had nothing else to do, so he considered it a form of relaxation. Liam found that to be a very strange way to relax. They chatted idly until Liam's younger cousin came out to call him for a late snack. She saw Ethan on the glowing screen. She immediately got closer, exclaiming over the handsome guy on the phone. Realizing Ethan could see her, she blushed and gave a shy smile, saying hello. Liam swore he'd never seen his cousin act so demure. Ethan was taken aback for a second before politely returning the greeting. The cousin turned to Liam, asking if that was his classmate. Liam, a bit confused, confirmed that he was sort of a high school classmate. He reminded her who Ethan was, Susan's son, who had visited their house before. The cousin understood immediately. Oh, Susan, Liam's dad's new wife. Liam said his goodbyes to Ethan and ended the call. As he led his cousin inside, she was still lost in thought. A little later, she sidled up to Liam with her bowl, a sweet smile on her face. Brother, she cooed. Liam shuddered, telling her to act normal. She pouted but nudged him with her elbow, her eyes sparkling. She asked about the guy he was just talking to, that Ethan, wanting to know what college he went to, how tall he was, his zodiac sign, and if he had a girlfriend. Now it was Liam's turn to understand. He looked at his cousin with amusement. Kids grew up so fast these days, already interested in boys at her age. He was about to play the role of the annoying adult and tell her to focus on her studies when he paused. A few seconds later, a mischievous smile spread across his face. He informed her that Ethan already had a partner. His cousin's face fell. She asked if it was true, and after a moment of disappointment, she rallied, asking what she was like and if she was pretty. Liam picked up his phone, using the black screen as a mirror. He was gorgeous. His cousin walked away, dejected, but her sorrow was short-lived. A piece of fried chicken quickly restored her spirits. It seemed a cute boy couldn't compete with a drumstick. Meanwhile, Liam sat there, thinking to himself that it was definitely time to make their reconciliation official. With Ethan attracting admirers left and right, it was far too risky to leave him unattached. Liam stayed at his uncle's for 2 days before returning home. His mother was about to leave on a trip with his grandmother and sister and wouldn't have time for him. But before she left, she insisted on treating Mr. Hayes and Susan to a meal, and Ethan was naturally invited. In the restaurant lobby, Liam spotted Ethan and launched himself onto his back like a monkey, wrapping his arms around his neck and cheekily asking if the handsome guy missed him. The impact nearly knocked the wind out of Ethan, who choked for a second before regaining his composure. He looked back at Liam, confirming that he had, but that if Liam squeezed any harder, he'd have to miss him from the afterlife. Liam quickly let go, chiding him for saying something so unlucky during the holidays. While the two young men were horsing around, Mrs. Davis was already chatting with Susan. The dinner was both a get-together and a celebration of Mr. Hayes and Susan's upcoming wedding. Mrs. Davis had even brought them a wedding gift, a set of designer dinner plates and a solid gold bracelet. Once they were seated in the private room, Mrs. Davis told Susan frankly that she wouldn't be attending the wedding. She explained that while there were no hard feelings between them, her presence would undoubtedly attract unwanted gossip, and she'd rather not provide fodder for it. Over the years, she had run into Susan whenever she came to pick up Liam, and Susan had helped look after her son. They had even talked on the phone occasionally, becoming something like friends. Susan nodded in complete understanding. She was still a bit shy about the situation, but Mrs. Davis's breezy, open manner helped her relax. The two women chatted about everything from family matters to wedding preparations, while Mr. Hayes contentedly poured tea for them, creating a surprisingly harmonious scene. The restaurant was bustling, and two servers attended their table, though neither could have possibly guessed the complex relationships of the people they were serving. Halfway through the meal, Liam, having had too much water, tapped Ethan's arm and said he was going to the restroom. Ethan, engrossed in a mobile game with Zoe, nodded without looking up. Liam ambled off by himself. After using the restroom, he was washing his hands and studying his reflection, wondering if he'd put on some holiday weight. As he was lost in thought, a pleasant, surprised female voice called out his name from beside him. Liam turned instinctively, a polite smile already forming on his face. But when he saw who it was, the smile froze, and his expression shifted to one of sheer shock. Of all the people to run into, standing next to him was the undisputed queen of their high school, the most popular girl from the class next door, and the very person he had unwittingly wronged. Chloe. Liam's brain completely short-circuited. He stared awkwardly at Chloe, at a loss for words. Normally talkative and easygoing, he suddenly felt tongue-tied in her presence. Chloe had changed quite a bit since high school. She was wearing a white turtleneck under a black, belted jacket with loose white trousers. Her hair was casually tied back, giving her a polished and capable look. In high school, with her sweet face, she was considered the cute, innocent type. But now, after a few years, her confident smile gave her the air of a cool, sophisticated woman. Chloe asked with a grin if he even recognized her, reminding him of her name and their high school connection, mentioning how she used to visit their class to see Ethan. Liam quickly shook his head, insisting he remembered. He forced a smile, racking his brain for something to say. He recalled speaking to her a few times in high school, and how she had once given him an antiseptic wipe when he scraped his knee during a track meet. He was so nervous he was practically stammering. Though taller than her, he felt as timid as a quail. Chloe's smile widened. She dried her hands on a paper towel, remarking on how he was still as adorable as he was in high school. She remembered how he used to trail after Ethan like a chick following a mother hen, with Ethan being fiercely protective. She mentally clicked her tongue but kept the thought to herself. Instead, she smoothly pulled out her phone and suggested they exchange numbers, commenting on the serendipity of running into each other again. She mentioned she had just gotten back in town and they should hang out sometime. Liam's eyes widened. That seemed inappropriate. He was Ethan's complicated ex, and Chloe was Ethan's former admirer. The two of them hanging out together? What would that even look like? But Chloe's attitude was so natural and friendly that after a moment of internal conflict, Liam found himself dazedly handing over his phone. With a beep, they were connected on social media. A jolt went through Liam. He was sure Chloe had no idea about the real reason Ethan had rejected her confession back then. If she knew, she certainly wouldn't be smiling at him so warmly. He swallowed hard. Chloe, oblivious to Liam's turmoil, happily added him as a contact and started scrolling through his profile as they walked out. She exclaimed that she also loved going to live music shows and that they should go together sometime. Liam, his face stiff, could only nod mutely. As they were making awkward small talk and rounding a corner, Liam wasn't looking where he was going and walked straight into someone. The person was tall and had a hard chin, and the impact made Liam wince. He instinctively apologized for not paying attention. But when he looked up to see if the person was okay, he froze. Standing in front of him was Ethan, looking distinctly displeased. Ethan hadn't expected such a surprise either. He rubbed his chin, suspecting it was already bruising. Liam was dumbfounded, asking what he was doing there. Ethan raised an eyebrow, explaining coolly that he had come to find him. Liam had been gone for ages just for a trip to the restroom, and the rest of them had already finished dinner and paid the bill. Liam managed a dry O and mumbled an explanation that he had run into Chloe in the restroom and they had been chatting. He glanced at Chloe, who was also looking at Ethan. A reunion with a former crush, yet her expression was calm and amused. Only then did Ethan seem to notice Chloe's presence. He turned and gave her a quick once-over, asking what she was doing there. He had thought she was staying abroad for the holidays. Chloe, who had gone overseas for college, had originally said she wasn't coming back this year. She crossed her arms, still smiling, and explained she was also there for dinner with friends, and their party had just ended. She had only been back for 2 days, a last-minute decision because her parents were pressuring her to return. She added with a slight dimming of her smile that they were already trying to set her up on dates. Ethan frowned at this. Liam, however, shot them a surprised and slightly sour look. He thought to himself that Ethan was being nosy. What business was it of his if her parents were setting her up on dates? The three of them started walking toward the entrance, as it was strange to keep standing by the restrooms. Liam's ears were pricked, trying to catch every word of Ethan and Chloe's conversation. But their chat was disappointingly mundane, consisting of casual pleasantries and talk about their studies. Chloe was planning on getting her PhD and was asking Ethan how many years he had left in medical school. It was all very professional, almost boring. They reached the lobby where Liam's parents and Susan were waiting. They were surprised to see a young woman with them. Chloe, however, greeted the adults with poise, introducing herself as a high school classmate of Ethan and Liam. The adults nodded politely. Susan studied Chloe's face for a moment and then remembered who she was. She recalled Chloe visiting their house once in high school to see Ethan. Her expression warmed considerably. Chloe was surprised to be remembered from that one visit. She smiled and confirmed it was her. But she glanced at her watch, indicating she had another engagement, so she said her goodbyes to the elders and left. Before leaving, she waved to Liam, saying they should hang out soon. After she was gone, Ethan turned to Liam with a suspicious look, asking what they had talked about that led to an invitation to hang out. He questioned how well they even knew each other. Liam shook his head, saying they had just added each other on social media and she was just being friendly. But Ethan continued to eye him with suspicion, as if weighing the truth of his words. He warned Liam to stay away from her, claiming she was far more cunning than him. Liam just snorted. What was that supposed to mean? That he was simple-minded? In a foul mood, he retorted, asking why Ethan was allowed to be friends with her, but he wasn't. Ethan just clicked his tongue, starting to say something before cutting himself off. He just pinched Liam's cheek in frustration and opened the car door. They took Mr. Hayes' van, the same one they'd arrived in. On the way back, they dropped Mrs. Davis off at the grandmother's house first. The parents' conversation had shifted from Mrs. Davis's travel plans to the topic of someone's son getting married soon. Suddenly, Susan laughed as if remembering something. She patted Ethan on the shoulder from the back seat. She asked cheerfully if the girl they had just met was the one he had been close to in high school, and if they had dated back then. Mr. Hayes' interest was piqued. He looked at Ethan excitedly, remarking that the girl was very pretty and Ethan had good taste. Liam's grip on the steering wheel tightened, his expression darkening. Ethan, who had been looking at his phone, frowned deeply at the question. He denied it emphatically, telling them not to spread rumors. He insisted that he and Chloe were just friends and that a relationship between them was impossible. Besides, he reminded his mother he had been completely focused on his studies in high school. Susan just patted him again, not buying it for a second. She knew he played video games to relax even during his senior year, and that half his academic success was due to his natural intelligence. She changed the subject slightly, saying that regardless of his high school dating life, he was 21 now and could start thinking about it. She assured him that she wasn't old-fashioned and there were many nice girls in college. Ethan just gave a cold, dismissive laugh and didn't respond. He wasn't interested. Listening to the interrogation from the back seat, Liam had to suppress a strong urge to roll his eyes. He fumed silently. What was wrong with these people's judgment? What girlfriend? They were shipping the wrong couple. The real partner was right here. He was Ethan's ex-boyfriend. By the time they got home, Liam was still in a sour mood. Mr. Hayes and Susan went out for a walk, leaving Liam and Ethan alone in the house. Liam was aggressively eating a taro-flavored ice cream cake, stabbing at it with his spoon. Ethan was trying to read a medical textbook, usually able to tune everything out, but the silence from Liam's side of the couch was too heavy. He glanced over. Liam's cheeks were puffed out, and the cake looked like a battlefield. Ethan frowned, asking what was wrong, why he looked so unhappy. Took Liam a moment to realize Ethan was talking to him. He answered automatically that nothing was wrong. Ethan didn't seem convinced. Liam just huffed impatiently. He had to admit, since the breakup, Ethan's ability to read his moods had improved dramatically. He insisted again that he was fine, just tired from not sleeping well the night before. To prove his point, he changed the channel to a comedy show. Ethan watched him for a few seconds. The show did distract Liam for a little while. He laughed as a celebrity fell into a pool of mud. But soon his expression went blank again, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. He really wasn't happy. The entire drive back from the restaurant, a heavy feeling had settled in his chest. Honestly, Chloe seemed like a nice person, but the moment he saw her, his heart had sunk. He couldn't help but remember that summer morning confession, with Chloe and Ethan standing face to face, a perfect couple surrounded by the scent of damp earth. Susan's question about her being Ethan's girlfriend had almost made his jealousy boil over. But he also knew it was just his own insecurity. Of the three people involved, he was the only one not at ease. Chloe and Ethan had both been calm and casual, their interaction nothing more than a friendly chat. Especially Chloe. She was clearly someone who could move on, her gaze toward Ethan that of an old friend, with no trace of lingering affection. On some level, Liam admired her for it. He knew he could never be that detached. But it also suggested she was truly over Ethan. And Ethan was the same. If their first attempt at a relationship had been somewhat accidental, Ethan's current determination to get back together meant he had made his choice. It was possible the two of them were really just friends, and his jealousy was pointless. As he thought this through, his mood gradually improved. He finished the last spoonful of cake and scooted closer, leaning his head on Ethan's shoulder. Just moments before, a vast distance had separated them on the couch, but now he had closed the gap. Ethan felt the weight on his shoulder and looked down. From his angle, he could only see Liam's long lashes blinking against his round eyes. He looked unusually quiet and docile, like a clingy cat. Ethan could tell Liam's mood had lifted. He closed his book and asked what he was doing. Liam, now working on a carton of milk, mumbled that he was just leaning on him and not to mind him. A corner of Ethan's mouth turned up. He quietly commented on Liam's attempt at being cute, his voice flat despite the pleasure he felt. Liam didn't mind, just adjusting his position and sipping his warm milk. With his mind at ease, Liam was back to his cheerful self. Before bed that night, he snuck into Ethan's room and slid under his covers, repaying the favor he felt he owed him. Tucked under the blankets, Liam was still a little embarrassed, but he told himself it was like a debt. You borrow, you repay, and then you can borrow again. Today's effort was an investment in future returns. After a 1,000-word internal pep talk, he took a deep breath and lowered his head. Ethan let out a soft hiss. He looked at the mound in the blankets before him, from which he could just make out the side of Liam's flushed face. Liam's technique, frankly, was not great. Ethan even had a fleeting fear that he might be permanently damaged. But while Liam lacked talent, he was a quick study, and after some fumbling, he found the right rhythm. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. He remained silent, not because he didn't want to tease, but because he knew any comment might make Liam spontaneously combust from embarrassment. So he wisely kept quiet. But he had to admit, his soul was close to leaving his body. It wasn't just the act itself, but the knowledge that Liam was trying so hard to please him that was so incredibly stimulating. The person he had secretly desired since he was 15 was now completely his. He had flown away briefly, like a bird, but had ultimately returned to his hand. After some time, Liam emerged from the covers with a small groan, looking like he'd just run a marathon. His face and lips were flushed a deep red, and he was covered in a light sheen of sweat. Ethan cupped his face, gently wiping away the moisture from the corner of his mouth. Liam felt like an overinflated balloon about to pop. His eyes darted around, trying to form words but failing. He didn't need to. Ethan leaned in and kissed him softly. Half an hour later, they were lying in bed together after cleaning up in the bathroom. Liam was much calmer now than he had been earlier. Ethan had insisted on sharing his bed instead of going back to his own room. Liam, feeling cocky, had asked him on what grounds. He sprawled out on the bed, declaring that he was used to sleeping alone and there wasn't enough room. He suggested Ethan could sleep at the foot of the bed. For that, Ethan had flipped him over and given him 3 sharp smacks on the rear. They lay side by side, shoulder to shoulder. The room was dark, and after looking at each other for a moment, they shared another wet kiss. The next morning, Liam had completely forgotten about Chloe. The house was in a flurry of activity. The wedding of Susan and Mr. Hayes was just 2 days away, and there were rehearsals to attend and banquet hall details to confirm. But just as Chloe had said, they seemed destined to meet. Without any planning, they ran into each other again. It wasn't exactly a chance encounter. Liam had snuck away from the wedding preparations for a break, heading to a friend's bar for a drink. He stepped out into a side alley for a cigarette, sitting on a step next to a large planter, partially hidden by shadows. Soon, he heard someone nearby on the phone. At first, he couldn't tell who it was, just a woman's voice pleading with someone, telling them to stop giving her a hard time. She insisted it wasn't her idea to go on the blind date, and that she hadn't even gone. Liam thought it sounded like some dramatic soap opera plot. The person on the other end was clearly very jealous. His position was awkward. To leave, he'd have to walk right past the woman. He decided to just stay put and pretend he wasn't there. But after a few more sentences, the woman put the call on speaker. The voice on the other end was also female. Liam raised his eyebrows. He felt increasingly uncomfortable eavesdropping as the conversation shifted from a lover's quarrel to flirtatious banter. From what he could gather, the woman next to him was trying to soothe her rather petulant girlfriend. It was actually kind of entertaining, but Liam knew he couldn't stay. He got up from the step, ready to make an awkward exit. But just as he took a step, the woman hung up the phone with an audible kissing sound. She turned with a smile on her face, and their eyes met. Liam froze. Chloe was just as startled. Took her a few seconds to react, asking what he was doing there. Liam had never imagined the person next to him would be Chloe. He stood there awkwardly, his toes curling in his shoes. He stammered that he was also there for the show and had just stepped out for a break. He hadn't known she was there. He was a mess of incoherent words. But Chloe quickly put 2 and 2 together. She had been on the phone with her girlfriend. Liam must have overheard something. Seeing his flustered expression, as if he'd stumbled upon a huge secret and wanted to disappear, she couldn't help but laugh. She told him not to be nervous, that it was no big deal. She smiled kindly, asking if he had heard her talking to her girlfriend. She assured him it was fine, that they weren't discussing anything private. The word girlfriend slipped out so easily, but Liam's eyes went wide. The moment he had seen Chloe, he had dismissed his initial guess about the person on the phone. He had thought maybe she was just talking to a sister, but now Chloe herself had said it. He drew in a sharp breath, completely baffled. He asked how she could have a girlfriend. What about Ethan? Was their high school thing just a youthful crush? Or had Ethan's rejection been so traumatic that she had switched teams? Surely not. He would feel terribly guilty if that were the case. But Chloe looked even more confused than he was. She asked why she couldn't have a girlfriend. Liam fumbled for a reason. He couldn't just bring up her past confession to Ethan. That would be incredibly insensitive. He mumbled something about thinking she liked guys, recalling how a boy from their class had confessed to her and she had rejected him, saying she already liked someone. The whole school had speculated about who it was, and all the guesses had been boys. Chloe laughed, clearly familiar with high school gossip. She admitted she did have a crush back then, but it was high school and coming out would have been difficult. So she had been vague. She looked at Liam, a playful glint in her eye, and delivered a line he would never forget. She had always been into girls. Hadn't Ethan ever mentioned it? There was a loud crash as Liam stumbled backward, knocking over the planter. No, of course not. He hadn't heard a single word about it from Ethan. Forgetting the fallen pot, he stared at Chloe in disbelief, asking about Ethan. He pressed her. asking if she wasn't in love with Ethan, or if she was bisexual. Chloe was now the one who was completely bewildered. 10 minutes later, Liam and Chloe were sitting at a small table outside the bar. Chloe listened with an expression of utter disbelief as Liam frantically recounted the story, from high school to the previous summer. She stirred her cocktail, feeling completely stunned. Liam nodded, his face a picture of guilt. Chloe declared it the most bizarre story she had ever heard. Her and Ethan? The world would have to end first. Thinking back, she realized it was partly her own fault. In high school, she had been so consumed with academics, music practice, and chasing her own crush that she was oblivious to the rumors about herself. She had heard people say she was taken, but she never imagined they meant with Ethan, of all people. Liam's ears were burning. He finally understood there had been a massive misunderstanding. He took a sip of his cocktail, his face flushing even more. He admitted he had also thought they were close in high school. She was always coming to their class to see Ethan, and they would hang out on weekends. Ethan was never like that with other girls, so he just assumed they were a thing. Chloe nodded in understanding. She reflected for a moment, conceding that it wasn't entirely their fault. She had been closer to Ethan than to most people, but it was because, as she put it with a pained expression, they were the same kind of people, united by a shared struggle. Liam didn't understand what she meant by the same kind. Chloe looked at him, amused. She asked if he really couldn't guess. She checked her phone. The show was almost over, and she had to leave. Her family knew about her orientation and, in their misguided attempt to control her, had set a curfew. She stood up, grabbing her bag. Seeing Liam still reeling from the information overload, she smiled. She told him that the confession he was talking about was a complete misunderstanding. She explained that she had just been dumped by her first love, who went to the same college as Ethan. She had flown back from abroad to try and win her back, but it hadn't worked. On her way back, she ran into Ethan and, overwhelmed with sadness, had vented to him. His classmates must have overheard parts of their conversation and misinterpreted it. She had been so heartbroken that she had wanted to drag Ethan out for a drink, but he had coldly refused, giving her only 10 minutes of his time to listen. She patted Liam's shoulder reassuringly, stating with certainty that even if it were the apocalypse, she and Ethan would never be a couple. She had always liked girls. And as for Ethan, he had been in love with a boy since high school. They were allies, nothing more. With that, Chloe gave Liam a breezy wave and left, as free-spirited as ever. She was like a gust of wind, there one moment and gone the next, leaving Liam sitting there, stunned into silence. The show ended, and people started pouring out of the bar, still buzzing from the music, laughing and singing as they passed him. But Liam didn't look up. The winter wind was cold against his face, but he didn't move, his mind replaying Chloe's words. He thought back to a high school reunion where Ethan, looking at him from across the crowded room, had quietly admitted to having a crush in high school. If it wasn't Chloe, and if it was a boy, who could it have been? Like someone in a trance, a soft R escaped his lips. Who had been the center of Ethan's world in high school, the person he had cherished like a treasure, the one with whom he had shared a fleeting, drunken first kiss at a party. Liam walked home in a daze. The taxi dropped him off at the end of his street. He paid the driver distractedly, almost overpaying by a huge margin if the honest driver hadn't pointed it out. He stumbled to his front door and leaned against the wall, covering his face with his hands. He suddenly didn't want to go inside. He had no idea how to face Ethan. In the taxi, he had hastily texted Chloe, begging her not to say anything to Ethan yet. A minute later, her reply came. She was so sorry, but it was too funny, and she had already sent him a message. It was her fault for being too quick. The moment Liam read the words, his heart turned colder than the winter wind. He had discovered that the cool and confident Chloe was also a bit of a gossip. "This is a disaster," Liam muttered. He looked up at the lit window of his house, knowing Ethan was probably in his room waiting for him, and the urge to flee was overwhelming. He knew it was cowardly, but he was more nervous than he had been before his final exams. He even considered getting a hotel room for the night, but he couldn't. His dad's wedding was the next day, and he had to be there. Besides, if Ethan found out, he would surely hunt him down. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the front gate. The new lock beeped as he entered their shared birthday for the password. He tiptoed inside, but he had only taken a few steps when a low voice came from the shadows of the patio. "Running from something? I see you finally decided to come home." Liam jumped. Ethan was sitting so still in the dark that he hadn't noticed him. He had been waiting for half an hour, passing the time by playing a solitary game of chess. He looked up at Liam, who looked as guilty as a kid caught sneaking out, his body tense and his eyes darting everywhere. Seeing there was no escape, Liam mumbled his name. "Ethan." Ethan let out a cold laugh. Now he remembered his name. He leaned forward, his voice deceptively calm. "So, I hear I'm in love with Chloe? And that we were high school sweethearts? And that she confessed her love for me in college, but I heroically turned her down for you?" Liam winced. He had been dreading this. He opened his mouth to explain, but no words came out. What Ethan said was true. That was exactly what he had believed for over a year. He deflated, looking at Ethan with the pleading eyes of a puppy. He mumbled that he didn't know she liked girls. Ethan's head was throbbing. He stood up and walked slowly toward Liam, who instinctively tried to back away. But Ethan grabbed his shirt and pinned him against the wall. Their tall frames pressed together, their shadows merging into one. Liam's back was against the cool stucco, but he didn't feel the cold through his jacket. Ethan wasn't using much force, just enough to keep him from running. The position was intensely intimate. Ethan's leg was between his, and if he tilted his head back just a little, their lips would meet. Liam's heart pounded. He glanced nervously at the lit living room window, trying to push Ethan away, but he was immovable. For a moment, Ethan considered dragging Liam inside and coming out to their parents right then and there. That would certainly solve the problem of Liam ever leaving him again. He looked down at Liam's panicked eyes, his bitten lip, his frustratingly endearing expression. He was so damn infuriating. His voice was cold as he asked Liam how he himself didn't know he was in love with Chloe. He was practically grinding his teeth as he demanded to know what he had ever done to make Liam believe such a thing. Had he written her letters? Taken her on dates? He reminded Liam that he had spent most of his time in high school looking after him. He'd made his study guides, corrected his exams, and taken care of him for a month when he broke his arm. By Liam's standards, he and Liam should have been married with 3 kids by graduation. He told Liam to be reasonable. He and Chloe barely spoke once a week in high school. Liam shot back, his defensiveness returning. He pointed out that while Ethan didn't talk to Chloe often, he barely spoke to any other girls at all. Besides him, Chloe was the one he interacted with the most. The whole school thought they were a couple. Ethan just sneered, retorting that the number of words he exchanged with Chloe in a semester was less than what he said to Liam in a single day. By that logic, he asked, what did that make them? Liam was silenced, but a small part of him was still resentful. He mumbled that he didn't know Ethan could like boys. He had thought he was straight, and that he and Chloe, being so alike and compatible, were a much better match than he was. Ethan was so exasperated he almost laughed. He asked why Liam hadn't just asked him. He was his boyfriend. He could have confronted him, yelled at him, started a fight. He questioned why Liam, who was usually so bold, had been so timid about this one thing. Liam thought because he didn't dare. He had always been confident, reckless even. But with Ethan, he was different. Love made him fearful. They were long distance, and Ethan had always seemed so busy and distant. He had wanted to ask, but he was afraid of the answer he might get. His nose started to sting. He turned his face away, feeling a little pathetic. He knew it was his own insecurity, his lack of faith in Ethan. He had been a coward. But the small, painful moments that had led to his doubt were too numerous and fragmented to articulate. He apologized softly, tugging at Ethan's sleeve. He asked him not to ignore him. Ethan's heart lurched. He saw the glint of unshed tears in Liam's eyes, the genuine hurt and fear in his expression. His own anger softened. He gently turned Liam's face back toward him, his voice softer now. He assured him he wasn't trying to settle scores. He sighed, a deep, weary sound. He just found it all so absurd. He had been devastated by the breakup, believing Liam had simply fallen out of love with him. But if it was all over a misunderstanding, what had all their pain been for? When Liam had broken up with him, he had said he was bored, that they were better as brothers. Ethan had believed him. He had spent months in agony, sleepless nights, drinking too much. If it was all a mistake, the last 6 months of heartache felt like a cruel joke. Liam scraped his fingers against the wall, dislodging a flake of paint. He could have just agreed, admitted his foolishness, and promised it would never happen again. That would have been the easy way out. But looking into Ethan's gentle, confused eyes, a wave of his own past sadness washed over him. He remembered sterile hotel ceilings, the dead rose in Ethan's apartment, waiting for him outside his university only to be greeted with a "What are you doing here?" He took a shaky breath, his voice barely a whisper. "I broke up with you because I didn't think you loved me. I thought you had never loved me at all." Ethan was stunned. He repeated the words in disbelief, his eyes wide with genuine confusion. "I never loved you?" The idea was so ludicrous it was almost comical. He couldn't comprehend it. Why would he have been with him then? Good question. It was the same question Liam had asked himself for a year. He wanted to believe Ethan loved him. But their relationship was mostly long distance, and Ethan was always so preoccupied. It felt like they were separated by a screen. Sometimes he could feel Ethan's affection, but other times it felt like a mere reflection. He told Ethan that he never felt like a real boyfriend, more like a brother that Ethan felt obligated to take care of. He confessed that every time he visited, he worried he was being a bother. Ethan's frown deepened. He asked when he had ever made Liam feel like a bother. Liam opened his mouth, wanting to say that while Ethan had never said it, he had also never managed to sit through an entire movie with him. But before he could speak, a loud bang from outside the gate made them both jump. Liam grabbed Ethan's sleeve. Thankfully, the front door was closed, and his dad and Susan didn't come out. Ethan glanced over his shoulder and reassured him it was just a loose piece of roofing tile falling. The interruption broke the tension, and they both fell silent. They realized this was neither the time nor the place for this conversation. The wedding was tomorrow. Whatever issues they had, they couldn't risk upsetting their parents now. Liam leaned against the wall, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He told Ethan his head was a mess and he couldn't think straight. He asked if they could talk after the wedding. Ethan looked at him for a long moment, understanding his hesitation. But Chloe's revelation had shown him just how many misunderstandings lay between them. He agreed, but on one condition. After the wedding, Liam had to answer all his questions truthfully. Liam nodded without hesitation. They stayed outside until they were both composed, then went inside separately. The house was decorated for the wedding, with festive banners and bowls of candy on the tables. Susan was trying on her wedding dress, a beautiful champagne-colored gown with gold and red embroidery. She twirled for them, asking if the alterations were okay. Liam told her she looked beautiful, and Ethan agreed. They didn't linger downstairs for long. At the top of the stairs, standing between their two bedroom doors, Liam hesitated. Ethan waited. Liam apologized again, this time for misjudging him for so long about Chloe. He had felt a momentary thrill of joy when he learned Ethan didn't love her, but it was quickly replaced by a deep sense of shame for his own assumptions. Ethan said nothing, simply pulling Liam into a hug. He told him he never had to apologize to him for anything. Liam felt his eyes welling up again. He looked up at Ethan, who could be so cold and serious, but also so incredibly gentle. On impulse, he stood on his toes and gave Ethan a quick, soft kiss on the cheek before wishing him good night and darting into his room. Ethan leaned against the wall, a small, amused smile on his face. But the smile quickly faded. The hallway light cast long, shifting shadows, leaving his face half in darkness. He remembered Liam's panicked, vulnerable expression in the yard. He couldn't believe Liam thought he didn't love him. He recalled Chloe's sharp words from a while ago. "You call that a relationship? You see each other less than I see my girlfriend, and we're in different countries." She had warned him that while he was busy building a future, his present was falling apart. Her words, born from her own painful breakup, now echoed with painful accuracy. He rubbed his temples, a headache forming. He glanced at Liam's closed door before finally heading into his own room. The next day, the wedding car departed from their house. The ceremony was a simple affair at a hotel, scheduled for noon. Liam, who had barely slept, was yawning in the back seat. Mr. Hayes joked about his son being more excited for his wedding than he was. Liam just rolled his eyes. Mr. Hayes continued good-naturedly, telling him to save the excitement for his own wedding. Liam smirked, thinking that if his dad saw who the other groom was, he'd need an oxygen tank. He snuck a glance at Ethan, who was looking back at him. The eye contact made Liam's stomach flutter. He was filled with regret about the previous night. He had intended to apologize properly, to make it up to Ethan for the ridiculous misunderstanding. But somehow he had been the one to end up crying and feeling wronged. He sighed. He was probably the most dramatic person on the planet. Thankfully, Ethan was acting completely normal, even popping a candy date into his mouth in front of their parents earlier that morning. Liam licked his lips, the sweet taste still lingering. He wondered why Ethan had given it to him. It was a symbol of fertility, and he certainly couldn't have children. At the hotel, there was no time for contemplation. As the sons of the groom and bride, they were tasked with greeting guests and managing the gift registry. For 2 hours, Liam was constantly on his feet. It wasn't until the ceremony began that he could finally sit down at the main table with Ethan. He took out his phone to record his parents on the stage. He noticed his dad's hand shaking slightly as he placed the ring on Susan's finger. A strange sense of melancholy washed over him. He wondered what his father had felt 20 years ago when he put a ring on his mother's finger. He'd seen their wedding photo. They looked so young, unaware that their union would end, that true love might be found much later in life. Now, his middle-aged father was marrying Susan, and Liam was certain this time it would last. As the bride and groom exchanged rings, Liam applauded with the rest of the guests. He leaned toward Ethan. his voice a whisper amidst the celebration, unsure if he could be heard. "Well, now you're really my brother." The legal bond of family was now layered over their secret, tumultuous love, a chain that would forever tie them together. He didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. He added with a wry smile that his dad would probably call it a disgrace to the family if he knew about them. His mind flashed through memories. Walking home from school with Ethan, drinking on the roof after graduation, the sound system Ethan bought him with his first scholarship, and Susan in a hospital bed, weakly hoping to one day see both her boys married with children. He took a sip of red wine. The MC was tossing candy and small gifts into the crowd. A round, red candy landed in front of him. He reached for it at the same time as Ethan, their hands meeting over the small sweet. It rolled to a stop in the space where their palms joined. Their eyes met. Over the clinking glasses and laughter, he heard Ethan's voice, clear and steady. "Disgrace or a perfect match, it doesn't matter. Brother, lover, whatever we are, we're never going to be apart." After the wedding, when the guests had gone, the four of them remained. Liam plucked a rose from a decorative archway and tucked it into Ethan's lapel, remarking that it looked good. They were all tired. Back home, Mr. Hayes and Susan, the newlyweds, yawned and wished their sons good night, reminding them of the vacation they were leaving for in the morning. But late that night, long after the house was quiet, neither of them was in their room. They were on the rooftop terrace. It was a remnant from Liam's middle school days, preserved during a recent renovation. It was winter, so most of the plants were gone, leaving just a few hardy evergreens. Ethan and Liam sat on the scattered patio furniture, wearing their suits from the reception. Liam was sipping a warm citrus tea Ethan had just made. He'd had a bit too much to drink at the wedding. He looked at a festive banner hanging on the railing and laughed, then grew quiet. He told Ethan that they would probably never be able to hang a banner like that for themselves. Anyone could get married, it seemed, but for them, who had known each other their whole lives, loved each other so deeply, the best they could hope for was probably a quiet ceremony overseas, with a marriage certificate only they would know about. Liam knew what Ethan wanted to talk about, but he was a little drunk, and his thoughts drifted. He recalled when Susan had surgery last year for her gallbladder. It wasn't major, but it had scared them all. He told Ethan that Susan had been scared too, though she had hidden it from him. After the surgery, she had confessed to Liam that her biggest wish was to see both him and Ethan happy, married, and with families of their own. She hadn't suspected anything between them. It was just a mother's post-surgery reflection. Liam remembered cutting his finger while peeling an apple for her at that moment. The sharp pain felt like it was returning now. He told Ethan that for a long time, he had misunderstood, thinking Ethan didn't really love him but was with him out of a sense of responsibility after they slept together. He had considered just going along with it because at least Ethan would be with him. But after hearing Susan's words, he had felt ashamed of that thought. If Ethan didn't truly love him, being tied to him out of duty would be no different from his parents' failed marriage. And besides, he had always felt Ethan was destined for a brilliant, perfect life. Ethan listened silently. He saw the moisture in Liam's eyes. He reached out and gently wiped a tear from the corner of Liam's eye. He said that he was already living a perfect life because not everyone gets to be with the person they love. The rose on his lapel was crushed as he leaned in to kiss Liam, its faint scent filling the cold night air. The kiss tasted of citrus and honey. He looked at Liam, his voice soft. "I don't understand why you would think I don't love you. Liam, I can tell you with absolute certainty, from the time I was 15 until now, I have always loved you." It was his first love. One summer afternoon when they were 15, He had watched Liam sleep in a patch of sunlight and had been overcome with the urge to kiss his cheek. That was almost 7 years ago. At Ethan's words, the tears Liam had been holding back finally fell. He asked why Ethan had never told him, why he had never said "I love you." The reasons for their breakup weren't one big, dramatic event, but a slow erosion of confidence over a year of long distance, a death by 1,000 small cuts. He asked Ethan if he remembered how many times they had actually seen each other during that year, besides holidays. It was 3 times. And one of those was only because Liam's band had a gig near Ethan's university. Ethan had only stayed for 1 night. Whenever Liam called, Ethan was always busy with work in the lab in class. Liam understood he was busy, so he offered to visit, but Ethan would tell him not to, saying he wouldn't have time for him. Who in a relationship doesn't want to see their partner? But it felt like Ethan didn't want to see him. The last words were a whisper. Liam's eyes were wet as he looked at Ethan. He never cried, but with Ethan, he felt an endless well of hurt. He said that he was always happy to see Ethan, but he never felt Ethan was happy to see him. He always seemed so tired. Liam would lie next to him, listening to him talk about things he didn't understand: medicine, his consulting work, academic papers. He felt they were worlds apart. He loved playing with his band, surfing, hiking with friends, all things Ethan seemed to dislike. He had wondered if someone more academic, like Chloe, would be a better match for him. He had always seen Ethan as perfect, and so when problems arose, he had blamed himself. He wasn't good enough for Ethan. Ethan listened, his brow furrowed. He finally understood. His own suspicions had been close to the truth. They were different people. Liam was emotional, he was rational. But that didn't mean they weren't meant to be together. He told Liam he had never thought that way. He hadn't wanted Liam to visit because the 6-hour round trip for maybe an hour together seemed unfair to Liam. He had been so busy he wouldn't have even had time to pick him up from the station. He admitted that he hadn't disliked Liam's hobbies. He had been jealous. Liam stared at him, confused. Ethan gave a self-deprecating laugh. He confessed his jealousy of everyone in Liam's life. His bandmates, his friends who went surfing and hiking with him. He was stuck in a lab while Liam was out living. So he pretended not to be interested because it hurt to hear about the life he wasn't a part of. He was not the perfect person Liam imagined. He was dark, jealous, and possessive, but only when it came to Liam. Liam was speechless. He had never heard Ethan talk like this. Ethan had always been so composed, so in control. It was only in the past few months that he had seen glimpses of Ethan's emotional side. He had thought it was a classic case of not knowing what you have until it's gone. But now Ethan was telling him he had never stopped loving him, that he had been secretly tormented by jealousy. He couldn't wrap his head around it. He asked what there was to be jealous of. Ethan almost laughed. He reminded Liam of the stream of admirers he'd had in high school, rattling off a list of names, including 2 boys Liam had completely forgotten about. Liam was stunned. He hadn't realized those 2 were interested in him. Ethan admitted that one had confessed his feelings for Liam to him, and the other had later gotten a boyfriend. He had been a constant, jealous guardian, something Liam had been completely oblivious to. He explained that his constant check-ins later were because he was always afraid someone would steal Liam away. But he didn't know how to express his jealousy, so it came out as criticism, which just made Liam think he was being annoying. Liam didn't know what to say. The amount of new information was overwhelming. He finally managed to call Ethan twisted. But seeing Ethan's rare display of vulnerability, his frustration, he couldn't help but feel a surge of affection. He looked less like a prince and more like a flawed, handsome human. He curled up on the couch, asking in a small voice if Ethan really cared that much. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. He hated being so exposed, but looking at Liam's hopeful face, he couldn't hide any longer. "I care so much it drives me crazy," he admitted. Liam let out a burst of laughter. After a moment, Ethan laughed too. He pulled Liam into his arms, and they huddled together. It was almost 2 in the morning. Ethan took out his phone and showed Liam his bank accounts. Liam's eyes widened at the number of zeros. While he was still getting an allowance, Ethan had already saved enough for a down payment on a house. Ethan explained that it was all he had, his nest egg. He had worked so hard in college to become financially independent for one reason. He paused, then forced himself to say the words, "In case one day our families find out and kick us out, I have to be able to take care of you." He'd had this plan since high school, on the off chance that his daydream of being with Liam came true. He couldn't let Liam's quality of life suffer because of him. And in the process of saving for their future, he had almost lost the person it was all for. Liam felt like he was in a dream. Ethan apologized for not telling him sooner, for not wanting to pressure him. Liam thought, well, he felt plenty of pressure now. He was suddenly acutely aware of his own financial situation, which consisted of 2 guitars and some pocket money. He felt completely inadequate, but Ethan seemed to read his mind. He saw the panic in Liam's eyes and gave his first genuine smile of the night. He squeezed Liam's cheek, just like he used to. He told him he didn't need to do anything, that just being by his side gave his life meaning. Ethan took the rose from his own lapel, the one Liam had put there, and pinned it on Liam's chest. He cupped his face and kissed him softly. "Get back together with me, Liam," he said. "I'll be good to you for the rest of my life." Liam finally broke down, sobbing. His treasure, his brother, his oldest friend, his Ethan, was promising him forever. "Okay," he choked out between sobs. "Okay." It was 3 in the morning when they finally went downstairs. They lingered at Liam's door, reluctant to part. Liam, feeling bold, suggested they have one more kiss before bed. Ethan readily agreed. They kissed passionately behind the door, a flurry of desperate, clumsy affection. Ethan had to grip Liam's waist to keep him steady, both of them young and flush with renewed hope. A long-held knot of misunderstanding finally untangled. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Liam leaned against the door, his eyes hazy. He asked Ethan if he remembered how they used to sneak kisses in his room, with relatives just downstairs. Ethan remembered perfectly. Even now, he knew he should let Liam go to sleep. But with Liam pliant in his arms, his desire flared. He buried his face in Liam's shoulder, his voice husky. "We need to get our own place. Kissing you always feels like we're having an affair." Liam laughed, then turned half serious, asking how they would ever explain their relationship to their parents before moving out. His dad would probably have a fit, but then he regretted bringing it up, ruining the mood. Ethan just held him tighter. "Let him," he whispered. "If there's trouble, I'll take the heat. You just run." After another 30 minutes of clinging to each other, Liam finally let Ethan go. He slept for only 4 hours but woke up feeling more refreshed than he had in months. The family was driving to a resort in the next state for a few days. A combination family vacation and honeymoon for the newlyweds. Mr. Hayes was driving, wistfully talking about the trip to New Zealand he had wanted to take. Susan gently reminded him that he was too busy with work right now, and suggested they could all go together as a family after the boys graduated. Liam wasn't listening. He was in the back seat, leaning against Ethan's shoulder with his eyes closed. But under the jacket draped over them, their pinky fingers were intertwined. Every so often, Liam would gently scratch Ethan's palm, earning a glance that only made him feel more smug. He looked at his dad. for a moment feeling an ungrateful wish that he and Susan would just go on their honeymoon and leave him and Ethan alone. It seemed a cosmic injustice to be stuck with his parents right after getting back together with his boyfriend. But it seemed some deity was listening. When they arrived at the resort, Mr. Hayes went to check in, only to find that their reservation for a 4-bedroom villa had been changed to a honeymoon suite in one building and a top-floor executive room in another. He was confused, looking to Ethan for an explanation, as Ethan had made the booking through a friend. Ethan, without batting an eye, checked his phone and feigned surprise. He apologized profusely, claiming he must have made a mistake. He explained that it was peak season and no other rooms were available. These two were all his friend could secure. He suggested that he and Liam could stay in the separate room so they wouldn't disturb the newlyweds. Mr. Hayes, after a moment, agreed it was a good solution. Susan gave her son a knowing look. She knew Ethan didn't make mistakes like that. It had to be intentional. Ethan ignored his mother's gaze and handed his and Liam's IDs to the receptionist. Liam played along, putting on a show of reluctance for his father, who was so touched he started looking for other hotels. Liam immediately dropped the act, telling his dad it was fine, that their young people itinerary was different from the old people one anyway. He grabbed their bags and dragged Ethan away, leaving a bewildered Mr. Hayes to complain to Susan about his ungrateful son, who clearly favored his brother. In their top-floor room, Liam let out a wow. It was an ocean view room with a single, massive king-sized bed in the center. The intention was crystal clear. It reminded Liam of a time they had been snowed in at a hotel, a stay that had started with an argument and ended with Ethan's hands all over him. The memory, once fraught with tension, now seemed tinged with a rosy nostalgia. He watched Ethan unpack, his eyes lingering on his boyfriend's form, his thoughts turning decidedly inappropriate. But then another thought struck him. Last night, in the heat of their emotional reconciliation, he had forgotten to ask one crucial question. If Ethan had loved him so much for so long, why had he been so physically reserved during their first relationship? They had slept together only a handful of times in a year. It wasn't normal for two healthy young men. One of them had to have a problem, and Liam knew it wasn't him. His gaze turned from lustful to resentful. Ethan, finished with the luggage, turned to ask Liam if he wanted to go for a walk and was met with a glare. He chalked it up to Liam's usual moodiness and took his hand, pulling him out the door. Liam's anger, however, was as fleeting as it was intense. In the elevator, he was already leaning against Ethan again, snapping a picture of their reflection in the mirrored doors. They were wearing matching black hoodies, looking every bit the couple. He showed the picture to Ethan, preening. Ethan just pulled him closer, confirming that they didn't just look like a couple, they were one. The coastal city was warmer than their hometown, with a relaxed, slow-paced atmosphere. Liam, with his boundless enthusiasm for new experiences, was in his element, wanting to try everything. This led to him being swindled by a street vendor selling overpriced souvenir coins. Ethan, who had been engrossed in reading a historical plaque, returned to find the transaction complete. He coolly informed a triumphant Liam that the official gift shop sold the same coin for $30 less. Liam was devastated. Ethan dragged him away, forbidding him from making any more purchases without his supervision. To make it up to him, Ethan took him to a dance performance he knew Liam would love. Ethan himself had little interest in such things, but he had bought premium seats because Liam enjoyed it. As he watched Liam, completely captivated by the tragic love story unfolding on stage, his eyes soft and shining in the reflected stage lights, Ethan smiled. He reached out and gently squeezed Liam's cheek. Liam, lost in the performance, turned to him with a dazed, questioning look. Ethan just shook his head, whispering that Liam was more interesting than the show. Later that night, they took a short cruise. Standing on the deck, the sea breeze in their hair, Ethan asked Liam if he was happy. Liam, who was happily eating an ice cream cone, confirmed that he was. He loved exploring new places, especially with Ethan. Ethan smiled, a little wistfully. He confessed he'd planned a trip for them last year, but then they had broken up. He was just glad they had found their way back to each other. He promised that from now on he would take Liam everywhere, that they would travel the world together when they retired. It was Ethan's version of a grand romantic declaration, stoic and practical, but utterly sincere. Liam's eyes curved into crescents as he smiled. In the darkness, they shared a sweet, cream-flavored kiss. On the way back to the hotel, while Ethan was buying beer and snacks, Liam spotted a pink vending machine. He thought it was for snacks, but a closer look revealed its contents. A wide variety of condoms, displayed proudly for all to see. A mischievous idea took hold. He glanced around. Ethan was still gone. In a flash, he bought a handful of different boxes and stuffed them into his backpack. He was a terrible actor, and his guilt was written all over his face. Ethan, returning with the snacks, eyed him suspiciously. He asked if Liam had bought something, and Liam's defensive, snappy reply only confirmed his suspicions. He figured it was another tacky souvenir Liam was too embarrassed to show him. He had no idea how wrong he was. An hour later, they were back in the room. Liam was watching a soccer match, his team losing badly. Normally, he would be yelling at the screen, but tonight he was quiet. He drank 2 beers, his cheeks flushed, his eyes fixed not on the game, but on Ethan. Ethan had just showered and was sitting nearby in a bathrobe, the lapels open just enough to reveal his chest. He looked unbearably sexy. Liam swallowed, feeling a sudden heat. He mumbled that he was going to take a shower. Before he went into the bathroom, he quickly grabbed something from his backpack and suitcase. The shower ran for a long time. When Liam finally emerged, Ethan was on his laptop, the blue light casting his face in a cool, aesthetic glow. Liam walked over and sat on the edge of the desk, directly in front of him. The movement blocked the light, and Ethan looked up into Liam's flushed, defiant eyes. Liam was wrapped in a white bathrobe, still damp from the shower, smelling faintly of white tea. With a hesitant, shaky hand, he untied the belt. The robe fell open. He was wearing nothing but a thin, black ribbon tied around his neck, and a matching garter high on one thigh. Ethan leaned back, his expression unreadable in the dim light. He reached out and lightly traced the ribbon around Liam's neck. It was fastened tightly, a small, green, teardrop-shaped charm dangling from it, casting a shadow on Liam's collarbone. His cool fingers brushed against Liam's hot skin. In a voice as smooth and clinical as a museum curator's, he asked, "What's this?" Liam shivered. His courage was failing. He was starting to think this was a terrible idea, that Ethan truly didn't care about his body. He closed his eyes, his voice sharp with frustration. "Don't play dumb. Can't you see?" But his commanding tone was undermined by his vulnerable posture. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. His hand traveled down Liam's chest, pausing at his thigh. He hooked a finger under the garter, letting it snap back against Liam's skin with a sharp thwack. "And this?" he asked, his voice a low, amused rumble. "What's this?"